And just like you were talking about, Anderzz, it does look like this initial push is going to be over on site A as we see 4 of the players coalescing over there, including the Spike.
Yeah, and we do see, of course, that Sage coming out for the side of Gen.G. I would expect no less. And I think that that's really, really important. I think the key word that should be in everyone's mind when they look at Ascent is variety. How many different sort of off-meta tweaks can a team make to the way that they have their attacker side go down? Because that'll define their success. I mean, we can predict if we're a high-level team that people are going to swing towards A more often than not. That's obvious, knowing the characteristics of the map. So what is the variety that you can bring to the table as an attacking side in order to throw a wrench into that?
I like this catwalk push, but Drone gets an early pick here on MkaeL, so that's going to slow things down for them. He swings and finds another one before getting the counter. Player 1 there with a pair of frags as well, and after all is said and done with that flurry of action, we're staring at a 2v2. Make that a 2v1 as Hazed finds player 1, and this is going to be a defense in favor of TSM, and I know that they get ragged on sometimes about their pistol rounds, but this is 3 in a row now that they've won.
Yeah, TSM absolutely on fire right now. They're absolutely playing like a team ignited. I think they're incredibly, incredibly hungry for that rematch.
That goes there.
And we'll have to see if Gen.G can stifle that energy.
So as we're getting ready to go into this round 2, it's going to be pistols on the side of Gen.G because of the loss, and it looks like their plan is going to be to push mid heavy here, which is not something you typically see with pistols, but this might be them just going for the surprise. And a couple of early trades there before the superior firepower kicks in on the side of TSM. Player 1 with a pair of picks on this Ghost, though. That means that they might be able to find a bit of room to breathe. However, Cutler's swinging over to A, and player 1 here is wounded. The spike is planted, but you have to assume that with only 31 health, this is not going to go his way. It does not. Cutler gets the frag. This will be a defuse for TSM, and it's going to be a 2-0 start. And I know Gen.G said that they had to forget the previous game, but now they need to forget these first 2 rounds as well.
Yeah, not the start that Gen.G wanted to see. The execute that they brought out there being something that I wouldn't necessarily expect from them given their composition. So we talk about that sort of generic A generator push and plant that we see here. And one of the variants when you're not running Sage is to rapidly push up through mid, through market, and then onto B site. Here we see that absolutely punished, and they're left in a very disadvantaged situation. We're going to have to see these full buys really pay dividends to see Gen.G catch a break.
Yeah, they need to turn their fortunes around, and ideally you want to catch a win here because that will punish the economy on the side of TSM quite a bit and allow you to get yourself back into this. But you got to watch out for Wardell. He's going to be peeking A here. Again, we talked about the predictability of folks traditionally doing this, and so he's going to sit with this angle. Misses the shot, though, and that is not very Wardell-like. He does escape after the dash, but took some damage as a result.
Cover going out.
And now Gen.G is in a really uncomfortable situation. One of the other sort of trademark characteristics of Ascent is that teams are very unwilling, generally speaking, to rotate to the opposite site once they've been found out. They're far more likely to slow play and then recommit than they are to rotate because of how unfriendly the center of the map is in terms of rotation, having to walk around a weird angle to get up the staircase onto catwalk, things of that sort. And we're going to see exactly that pan out as Gen.G is going to double down towards A.
This time Wardell does not miss, but again, that damage he took earlier comes back to haunt him. Huynh able to get the counter frag as a result. And Hazed doing a little hazing of his own, picking up a double kill here on the back end. And now it's just this Cypher who is trying to come up through the window where Hazed is lying in wait. Does get the trade here. MkaeL takes him down, but still sadly a 2v1. And he has to plant, which is going to leave him vulnerable. And we'll see if he can pull this off. He's going to plant behind the box. Gives him a little bit of cover, but he has to win both these peaks.
And he won't win either of them as he's just flanked outright by Cutler here. That anchor position that Cutler's playing towards A, making for a really strong sort of slow retake. And that will put TSM up their 3rd round.
Yeah, the slow diffuse here allows them to recoup that operator so that Wardell can get that back. And again, Gen.G not where they want to be because economically they're going to be a bit hurting. I expect this to be quite the eco round. We're kind of seeing that sheriffs on hand, shields if you can afford it, leaving themselves enough credits so that they can full buy the following round. Now, this is certainly not favoring Gen.G, but I will say this, when you have these eco rounds where you can at least afford to get to the sheriffs, the one-tap potential is there. And of course, the moment I mention that, they all sell their sheriffs to go back and give themselves more cushion. So this is likely not going to go very well for them at all.
With ghosts and a shorty here and there, these rounds aren't foregone conclusions. One of the things that happened quite frequently yesterday was what I jokingly call the eco round power up, where when you have nothing to lose, sometimes sending it just pans out in your favor, and we may see that come through here for Gen.G.
Yeah, I traditionally can get behind that statement, except for when you're going to be funneling into A, you got to get close to use these weapons, and the AR power here is that you can just do this, right? You're seeing them pick them off at a distance. Subroza there with an easy 3K. Even with the jet diving forward, it's just not enough because the shorties are not going to get it done as you swing there on A, and even the ghosts, you got to land multiple headshots to trade with the one-tap potential of the AR. This is academic.
Absolutely. Subroza with the disgusting flick between those last 2 targets. And really what needed to happen for Gen.G there for that push to open up is Huynh dashing forward on the jet, using that Blade Storm, needed to find a pick. If Huynh picks off the Phoenix there, I think that entire round gravitationally shifts.
Yeah, I agree. I think the eco rounds are far easier to accomplish when you can get early picks and then pick up the weapons off the corpses. But again, pushing into A there, and with the limited firepower, it's just not very close range friendly, which is where you traditionally make that happen. So this time around, they've got weapons. They're going to be apparently pushing mid a bit, kind of posturing there anyway, but this is something we haven't seen from them. We haven't seen them really try to take mid control, and Huynh with a pick on drone there with the operator might open things up for him.
Yeah, really weird sort of slow default play out of Gen.G's offense thus far. I really want to see more decisive commitments out of them. We see them now leaning a little bit more towards B. We might end up seeing that Sage boost and them forcing onto site. They've got more or less comprehensive fish control at this point, but there's that Cypher cam. I don't know if we saw someone caught out. They will clear it, and the Omen all comes across, so they likely were caught.
Yeah, the Sage is boosted and was trying to get Wardell there, but instead Wardell finds that pick on MkaeL and also re-peeks to find Effys on the Sage wall. And that is disaster for Gen.G. Any hope they had of pushing in is basically out the window with that double by Wardell.
That flick from Wardell was so disgusting, it gave me whiplash. My goodness. You can't take peaks like that and lose them. It's absurd, the type of power that he brings to this roster.
And Hazed here going to deny Huynh from keeping that operator to the next round as well. And I'm getting flashbacks. We have a 5-0 start on the side of TSM after they just won 13-3 in the previous map, and this is shellacking. Like, let's be honest. Gen.G really needs to get something together. I think I'm with you. At this point, I'd like to see something very decisive and aggressive because the default hasn't been working. And I think you just need to catch TSM off guard. Whatever you're doing right now, TSM has it figured out.
Absolutely. TSM is playing, honestly, the best I've seen them in a long time. They're at their personal pinnacle right now, at least what we have seen out of them historically. And so Gen.G needs to rise to the occasion and par that, or this map's already over. We need to see Gen.G taking the same outright aggression, that same forceful play that TSM has been bringing nonstop.
We see a flurry of kills once again going to the side of TSM here, and with Hazed picking off Effys, it's down to one player left on the side of Gen.G who's not even at full health. You've got the spike, you've got a dream, but now you've got nothing. Subroza finds them. The problem here is that not only is TSM winning, but they're winning with 3, 4, 5 players alive. Look at the war chest they have here. 9,000 credits on 2 of their players here. Everybody else, with the exception of Drone, above 3,000. They could lose 2 rounds and still full buy into that. So Gen.G, not only do they need to win, but they need to string them together against maximum firepower.
Hey.
Yeah, it is very hard to
bro.
find positives at this point for Gen.G. They're in a steep tail slide, and they've got to find something.
My camera is
It's just so surprising to me because they're a very talented team, but Wardell with an early pick here is just making it look easy against them. And this goes back to what we talked about on the first map. When they find these opening picks, when they have this first blood advantage, it really puts things in favor of TSM, and even more so on this defending side. So Effys does get the res here. That's the one benefit of bringing a Sage to Ascent, is you do still get the res, but all that does is even things up.
Yeah, we have exactly the issue that I was explaining in the pregame, which is Gen.G just doesn't seem to have any kind of read on where Wardell is going to be peeking them. And because of that, Wardell just gets a free kill at the beginning of what feels like every single round. Gen.G is playing a perpetual 4v5.
Get out of my way!
For the res, they've at least got it back to a 5v5. They are going to be trying to push in, but Drone with a double helps to stall things a bit. After the trade, it's still going to be a 3v3, but Effys there lost their armor, had to use the heal, so the Sage heal is now on cooldown. Wardell answers with another pick on the Sage, and we have some players camping the spike down here in Hell. That gives them a little bit of an advantage for now, but as they get to take these peeks here, well, player 1 is actually going to pop off a little bit and make this a contest. And then Hazed ends it. Every time you think Gen.G's about to pull something off, every time you think, okay, this is the time they're going to do it, somebody steps up for TSM. We saw it in the first map. Everybody really positive KDAs. They're all popping off. They're all playing well. So there's not even a weak point you can really attack at this stage.
I totally agree. I think that, just to reiterate the point you just made, every single time it feels like Gen.G finds something, anything, TSM just blows them out of the water, and it goes to show the ridiculous, almost bottomless clutch potential that every single player on TSM brings. I feel like every single one of them at some point during this round has had a pop-off moment to extinguish the hopes of Gen.G.
We're going to see the early hot hands here by Subroza, trying to slow things down, and this Hunter's Fury is going to catch, I think, almost 2 folks there. MkaeL drops. And that is, yet again, a brutal start for Gen.G. These first bloods going over to TSM make it an uphill climb. Subroza wants to take this peek, but backs away at the last moment. Gonna hold the angle instead. And Wardell punishes them. Subroza gets another kill as well, and this is likely going to be an 8-0 start. There it is, flawless on the side of TSM.
I don't know about you, but my positivity stores are running a little bit low right about now.
I honestly kind of feel bad for you, Anderzz, because you're here to be my analyst. You're supposed to give me the breakdown, and I don't know what you're supposed to break down for me.
The breakdown is Gen.G. Gen.G's breaking down. Now,
the good news here is that they have stored enough credits so that they have a full buy with an operator. The last time we saw this from them, they did start to shift their momentum a bit. Let's see if they can recreate that magic and try to salvage this half. Subroza with a nice swing here on the run it back means this is another pick. Player 1 also picks one up as well. The first blood differential after this game is going to just be a landslide again. I can already feel it. And Subroza catches GMD even after the blast pack to try to close that distance. Huynh does make use of that operator finally, picks off Drone. So this is going to set up a 3v3, but you still have to get this spike planted.
Cover going out. No.
And Wardell just styling on player one there. It's crazy to me because it's not like Gen.G is a bad team, but TSM is making them look bad right now. There's no two ways about it. Yesterday we saw relatively close games between these two across both maps, and
My eyes
it's
are
just
better than
completely
yours.
disappeared.
And that right there is exactly what I was talking about earlier, where every time it feels like, hey, Effys finds Cutler, and this is going to be a round win for Gen.G. I was just about to say, every time Gen.G gets something going, they get shut down. Cutler had that nice trade frag after Huynh finally took down Wardell, but Effys comes through in the clutch, and Gen.G is on the board.
Not a 13-0. We made it.
Not a 13-0, but TSM still probably, as a bit of a pride thing here, wants to punish them and see if they can do better than last map. Last map, it was a 13-3 victory. I suspect the bravado from TSM has them hungering to make this even better than the first round. And so we're going to see this spread out default start from the side of Gen.G. They've got the spike dropped as they all push forward, try to get some intel, figure out where is Wardell, where are the other players of the squad.
Sit down.
And as they push forward, Subroza finds player one. Yet again, first blood going to TSM.
I don't know how many times we can plug this narrative, but how many rounds has TSM started within the first 30 seconds of man up? It's got to be at least 7 of these, bare minimum, if not all of them. Like I mentioned,
Cage
I don't
triggered.
think Gen.G has played a full 5v5 like almost this entire match.
Wardell punishing them for trying to push in through site B, but MkaeL here answers, gets a double. The Cypher ult is going to let them know where the remaining members of TSM are, and this is the first time in a long time we've seen
Camera
a
taken out.
numbers advantage in favor of Gen.G, and they are going to be planting here on site B. They might actually be stringing together 2 victories here in a row if they can defend this.
Yeah, Gen.G looking like there's still a shred of hope for them picking up this second, and there's always the fringe likelihood that we switch sides and see a similar performance out of them. I don't want to act like it's completely over, but it's definitely dire straits.
And Effys found Subroza creeping. Drone did his best, got that double before finally falling. Now, I will say this, that double by Subroza there at the end is actually a relatively big deal. Here we're going to see the highlights of MkaeL getting the double as he entered onto the site. This was huge in getting them that momentum. But the double by Subroza at the end is a big deal because of the economy, right? You are still in a position where, despite the fact that Gen.G is stringing together a couple of wins, they are recuperating their credits, and as a result, we can see MkaeL is going to be forced to take a bulldog into this round.
Yeah, it's a case where Gen.G, even when they do catch a break, it's like half a break at best. They still end up in a situation where their economy isn't what they want it to be. My goodness, Huynh there goes barely unpunished, only 8 health to his name.
Yeah, but he picks up that double to start, including Wardell, and this is what we needed to see from them. They needed to win those initial engagements. So now it's them with the numbers advantage. I think they're finally finding a bit of momentum here. I said it before, I felt like this was going to turn when they could just start winning the fights, but Subroza finding Effys there is huge because the spike was dropped, and that means they know where it's at. Player one punishing Drone, though, that gives them back the numbers. They're going to move over here to B to get this plant. This run it back is huge. If he can get a pick here and then go back from the run it back, he might be able to make this work. Doesn't get the pick, though, so this is going to be a traditional 1v2 if he decides to push in, and I got a feeling Subroza is going to take this chance.
I mean, there's no reason not to. He's playing with house money at this point. They've had insane clutches all throughout the map thus far, so there's no reason to expect that this isn't a possibility.
And player one catches him looking, too many angles to try to peek there. It's now 8-3. It was 8-0 at one point, but Gen.G is clawing back into this. They've strung 3 in a row now. If they can pull this to an 8-4, you never want to say that's a victory, but honestly, for them, that'd be a victory at this point. And here we're going to see the replay of the double that Huynh had to start. We didn't get to see this on broadcast, but beautifully executed, catching one and then the other really opened things up for them at the start of that round.
Absolutely, and honestly, that's what we need to see more of. If Gen.G pulls this back to an 8-4 half, that's respectable. They're still in this, absolutely 100%. But we need to see more of what Huynh just showed, where we can't be talking about how, oh, here's Gen.G in a 4v5 again. It needs to be the reverse. We need Huynh to start popping off, getting those early picks, and putting Gen.G at early man advantages.
And after finding quite a bit of success on Site B here, it looks like this is going to be the initial plan from Gen.G going against convention after all of their A pushes earlier were punished significantly, and now they're just piling into Site B. Effys finds that pick. Player one also gets one before the counter frag, but again, this is that first blood into a numbers advantage that they needed. So Site B seems to be the magic that Gen.G was looking for.
It makes a whole lot of sense when you look at their composition. I've mentioned a few times that Sage offers up a piece of utility that isn't utilized by everyone, and it makes B a far easier plant than it otherwise would be. And so to see them finally leaning on that is great. That shows that they're finally playing to their tools.
It also means that they are trying to, in many ways, punish the predictability of TSM. They knew that they had a strong A hold, and Hazed and Drone here winning their firefights, popping off a bit, and so going to be up to Huynh, but Wardell denies it. So 9-3 is the differential here at the half, and they're going to be swapping sides now. It's going to be TSM on attack. If you're Gen.G, you really want to win this pistol round so that you can get that economic advantage early, try to snowball a bit, get yourself into at least a 9-5 scenario if you can, but I would think that a win in the pistol round here by TSM would almost seal this.
It definitely feels that way. Ascent as a map is going to be extremely defender-sided, and I think that if we can see Gen.G pick up a pistol here, accelerate Huynh into the op, we might see Huynh pop off just like Wardell was in the first half and put Gen.G at that much-needed advantage. We saw there in the last couple of rounds that one of the driving forces of Gen.G finally picking up those rounds were players like Huynh and player one popping off. If they can keep that through this pistol, Gen.G's in decent state.
Wardell with the first blood, almost like it's scripted at this point, is going to give TSM an advantage, but we have a couple of players that took damage as a result, and again, TSM is running this Sageless Ascent comp, so that has the potential to be significant. They're going to throw this hot hands back there to make sure nobody's lurking. That gives them some intel that it's safe to push forward a little bit, and Drone catches Huynh lurking before MkaeL gets the counter frag, but that means a strong push into Site A is on the agenda. Player one with a pair before Wardell punishes him. We're down to this 2v2, a lot of firing through the smoke, a lot of utility out. Plant now starting to go down. It looks like the opposing side of Gen.G is gonna both enter from the heaven side. See if they can catch anybody looking at the wrong angle.
3.
Wardell dashing to the other side of this box. Not gonna peek it quite yet. I think he's just trying to make some noise really at this point because of the only 47 health. You have to be very precise with this. Yeah, gets punished by Effys, but not a lot of time left for this defuse. Does get it though.
Effys.
Oh, it's not enough time. It's gonna go off before the defuse is there. You've got to be at roughly 40% before the fast tick starts, and so ultimately this is a TSM victory despite the fact that Effys got that final kill.
Effys, Gen.G's battle sage, putting in work, but just a hair's breadth away from making it count. Now we're looking at 10-3.
Yeah, here we can see Effys is going to take this swing, knows where the player is likely lurking. There's the gap in the wall, but again, once that fast tick starts, you've got to be at roughly 40% of the way up the spike if you want to finish it. So just not enough time. And that goes back to Wardell, who was kind of dancing around that box making noise, right? He knew he had the low health, so he just needed to distract long enough. That bought them a fair amount of time, and so now we're going to see this kind of slow default start from the side of TSM. They've dropped the spike way back. They want to push forward and get some info. And that's a nice flash that comes out. Subroza with a pick. Make that 2. So yet again, feels like this is a broken record at this point. First blood to TSM, big numbers advantage. They're going to walk onto site A and get this plant. It'll be a 5v3, make that a 5v2 after Drone takes down another player. Player 1 gets a pick, but now it's just him and an SMG against the remaining 4. Well, he finds Wardell, but Subroza answers back.
It's absurd to me how whenever Gen.G seemingly finds someone, some other player from TSM is already positioned to trade them out. Even if it's not from an angle that you would expect in a million years. Like, right there, we see player 1 find a pick, find a little bit of momentum, and then he's immediately traded from marketable places after killing someone dog. It's the preparation that TSM has in terms of coordination and player coverage is just unbreakable at this point. I don't know how Gen.G can handle it.
Yeah, you talk about at times with Valorant the buddy system, the idea of when you make an engagement, you want somebody to be able to take the trade frag, take the refrag, and TSM is showing that they have the aptitude to do it, as you said, from different angles all over the map. So instead of it just being 2 people stacked together, they know the sight lines, and you can tell that this comes from practice and scrimming, and it's paying off for them. It's giving them huge dividends, and it's now 11-3. This is them walking into Gen.G with more equal firepower this time around. So this is going to be the first real test, I think, for TSM since the pistol round, since the swap.
Locking sight.
And it looks like A is going to be the play here for TSM, but it's going to be from the catwalk side. Gen.G knows it as everybody's rotating over here on the map. This is a great flash, but GMD still gets a trade on Subroza. But ultimately, it's going to be TSM coming up huge here. Wardell with a pair of picks, Hazed with a headshot as well. And now it's a 1v3. They're going to get this spike planted, and the reality is this is going to end up being a match point scenario for Gen.G. I believe in Effys, but I don't believe in a 3v1, unfortunately. Even more so because of the dart. You're going to have to back up to pull it off. This is a weird angle. You're going to essentially re-enter from the same spot. I would actually anticipate maybe even a save. You can't really save, though, because it's 11-3.
Yeah, Gen.G is out of options at this point, and the one option they have isn't good.
Yeah, that's just a brutal position for Effys to be in, because with the wall down, you can't back up and re-enter the site from a new angle. There is no ambush potential. They know exactly where you're coming from. They've got crossfire set up. It's 3v1. You'd like to take your AR and save it, but you're now down 12-3, but at the time 11-3. It's just a no-win situation. And you're going to see now the force buy from the side of Gen.G because it is match point. And we might be on the cusp of our second 13-3 result.
Barrier created.
So Wardell, entry frag, first blood.
Joke's over. You're dead.
Revealing area.
You could put me on repeat saying the exact same things for this entire match. Round after round. Just 2 clips. Me saying TSM first blood, numbers advantage, round win. It just feels like there's nothing that Gen.G can do, and again, now it's going to be down to just 1 player. This is a 1v5, and TSM's going on the hunt. They're not even going to try to plant, and that's it. 13-3 TSM.